Hi everyone, I'm Sal, co-creator of Salt and Pepper Productions, and I'm back with another Danganronpa video. Although I'm hoping this will become its own separate series. As you can probably tell from the thumbnail, I'm going to compare the original Trigger Happy Havoc game to its anime adaptation, Danganronpa: The Animation. What a clever title! So this video will be divided into 3 parts. In part 1, I'll go through the various changes the anime made to the story and briefly discuss how I feel about some of those changes. In part 2, I'll discuss my overall thoughts on the show and attempt to answer the following questions. Is this a good adaptation or a bad adaptation? What are the show's strengths and what are the show's weaknesses? In part 3, I'll make a few suggestions that could potentially alleviate the problems that are present in the show. I'll discuss how I would handle a Trigger Happy Havoc anime adaptation. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. In the game, Makoto Naegi is standing in the main hall when he experiences the lapse in his memory. In the anime, he's still standing outside when he experiences the memory lapse. He had just stepped inside the gate when his vision morphed into darkness. In the game, the students gather in the main hall before moving to the gymnasium. In the anime, the students start off in the gym. In the game, Makoto is the one who notices that Junko Enoshima doesn't look like herself. He notices that something is off almost immediately. In the anime, Sakura Ogami is the one who comments on Junko's appearance. But that doesn't happen until a few days after the killing game officially began. In the game, Makoto is alone when he wakes up in his dorm after being socked by Mondo Owada. After taking a look around, he leaves the room and literally runs into Sayaka Mizono, who came to check on him. In the anime, Sayaka is sitting beside his bed when he wakes up. On one hand, I think it's sweet that anime Sayaka decided to stay with him. On the other hand, because anime Sayaka was there when he woke up, anime Makoto didn't get the chance to examine his room until much later on. In the game, Makoto and Sayaka are the first to arrive at the dining hall. In the anime, they're the last to arrive. In the game, Makoto and Sayaka take the replica sword from the display case sitting outside the gym and bring it to Makoto's room for self-defense purposes. In the anime, the sword is already there when Makoto wakes up after being assaulted. It's implied that anime Monokuma / anime Junko put the sword there, hoping anime Makoto would use it as a weapon. In the game, Makoto watches his incentive video by himself. He was the first one to watch the first motive. In the anime, everyone watches their videos together. In the game, Makoto calms Sayaka down in a classroom. In the anime, he calms her down in a hallway. In the game, Makoto learns that his bathroom door gets stuck on the first day. In the anime, he doesn't realize that it gets stuck until day 3, the night he switches rooms with Sayaka. When he woke up in his dorm after being assaulted on the first day, the bathroom door was already shut. So, apparently, anime Makoto made no attempt to enter his bathroom before day 3. Apparently, he didn't shower for 2 whole days. Please don't follow Toko Fukawa's bad example, anime Makoto. Speaking of Toko, in the anime, she faints when Mukuro Ikusaba is killed, but in the game, she remains conscious despite the large amount of blood. I kind of like that the writers for the show decided to have Toko faint in this scene. I think it feels a little more consistent. I mean, I suppose you could argue that Game Toko looked away as soon as she saw the spikes appear from beneath the floor, but still. In the game, Monokuma/Junko gives the students a single copy of the Monokuma file whenever someone dies. In the anime, the Monokuma file is uploaded to everyone's e-handbook. I like that change because it's more efficient than having 6+ people share one little folder. This guarantees that everyone has a chance to read through the key facts of each case. After the first class trial and execution, Kyoko Kirigiri talks to Makoto about Sayaka's betrayal. In the game, Kyoko approaches him before the students return to the elevator. In the anime, Kyoko visits Makoto's bedroom. The conversation they had in the original game was very personal, and having it take place in Makoto's room made it feel even more private, more intimate. Anime Kyoko is in anime Makoto's private space, so there's no chance one of the other students will overhear their discussion. So I like this change, as small as it is. In the game, Kyoko convinces Monokuma/Junko to bring the second class trial to a brief recess so she can show everyone the truth about Chihiro Fujisaki. In the anime, everyone remains in the class trial room, and Kyoko simply tells everyone the truth about Chihiro. In the game, Makoto finds Hifumi Yamada's camera in the physics lab. In the anime, Celestia Ludenberg finds it in the rec room. In the game, the students find Alter Ego before Monokuma/Junko gives them the third motive. In the anime, Monokuma/Junko gives them the motive before they find Alter Ego. Also, in the anime, Byakuya Togami, Kiyotaka Ishimaru, and Toko are all there when the students discover Alter Ego. In the game, they weren't there, but they learned about him later on. In the game, Makoto finds photos of his deceased classmates laying on the floor in different parts of the school. In the anime, the photos are on the laptop Chihiro used to create Alter Ego. In the game, Yasuhiro Hagakure slips a note under Makoto's door. The note tells Makoto to meet Yasuhiro in the dining hall. Once there, Yasuhiro invites Makoto to the bathhouse. In the anime, he barges into Makoto's room, tackles Makoto, and slips him the note so the security camera doesn't see. Game Yasuhiro's method was roundabout, and seeing how the students are trying to not call attention to themselves, seeing how they don't want their captor to catch on to their secret, I don't think Yasuhiro slipping notes under people's doors is very subtle. Then again, barging into people's rooms and screaming, "Let's take a bath together!" isn't very subtle either. So I'm not sure which version of that scene is the smarter version. I guess the game's version is smarter, while the anime's version is funnier. The show made a few changes to Celeste's behavior during the third case. In the game, Celeste claims that she saw the costumed attacker going up the stairs to the second floor. This fact is highlighted during the class trial. In the anime, we don't see an exchange like this. After Hifumi announces that he's going to the infirmary, the students decide to split up, and then we get a montage of everyone running through the school. In the game, Celeste is the one who suggests splitting into two groups when everyone hears Hifumi scream. This fact is also highlighted during the class trial. In the anime, Sakura is the one who suggests splitting into two groups, and that decision was an afterthought. Also, when Anime Celeste sees Justice Hammer number 3, she says something like, "But how? We just saw the assailant on the 3rd floor." In the game, Makoto is the one who questions how the assailant was able to be on 2 different floors at the same time, and then Celeste dismisses his question, tells him they could worry about it later. In the anime, Aoi Asahina is the first person to mention the picture during the class trial, but in the game, Celeste is the first person to mention the picture. I know this case gets a lot of hate for being too obvious, so a part of me wonders if those small changes were made to make Celeste being the killer feel less obvious. Moving on. In both the game and the anime, Toko faints when she sees Kiyotaka's dead body. In the game, she doesn't show up as Genocider Sho until after the investigation starts. In the anime, she wakes up as Genocider Sho shortly after the students discover that Kiyotaka's body disappeared from the equipment room. The game and the show handled Hifumi's death differently. In the game, the second body discovery announcement plays immediately after everyone finds him in the repository with Kiyotaka's body, and immediately after that, Monokuma/Junko gives them the latest Monokuma file. Because of this, the following cutscene made it look like Hifumi came back to life and died a second time. In the anime, the second body discovery announcement doesn't go off until after Hifumi dies in Aoi's arms. This made it look like Hifumi was unconscious and near death when everyone found him in the repository. I kind of understand why the anime made this change. In the game, Makoto and Kyoko talk about the hidden room and Makoto's secrecy in the music room. In the anime, they talk about these things in the hallway outside the headmaster's office. In the anime, everyone is together when Alter Ego shares his findings. In the game, Alter Ego shares his findings with Byakuya and Toko first, and then Byakuya tells the other students to go to the bathhouse to learn what Alter Ego has to say. In the game, Aoi slaps Byakuya in the dining hall. In the anime, she slaps him in the gym. When Aoi discovers that Sakura committed suicide, she gets help from Kyoko, who then goes looking for Makoto. In the game, Kyoko finds Makoto in his dorm. In the anime, Kyoko finds Makoto in the laundry room. In the game, Makoto uses a broom to break the rec room window. In the anime, he uses his elbow. If you ask me, he should have used a fire extinguisher. I know this anime came out before the end of Hope's Peak Academy, but come on, that would have been hilarious! In the game, Kyoko is the one who suggests having Makoto hold onto the knife, which to me implies that she is putting more of her faith in him, that she truly does trust him. In the anime, Kyoko leaves the dining hall before Toko shows everyone the knife, so Byakuya is the one who suggests that Makoto hold onto it. I think I like the game's version of this scene more, but I do like how Anime Byakuya pointed out that Anime Yasuhiro and Anime Aoi shouldn't be trusted with the knife after what happened during the Sakura Ogami case. In the game, Monokuma/Junko comes to the dining hall to confront the students about the stolen key. In the anime, Monokuma/Junko calls everyone to the gym, and Kyoko doesn't show up, even though she had no reason not to. I guess you could argue that she suspected it was about the key, but still, she's smart enough to know that not showing up would look suspicious. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that change. I think Monokuma/Junko barging into the dining hall in a fit of rage while most of the students were already there made more sense. Also, in the anime, Monokuma/Junko said someone broke a security camera, but there's no mention of that in the game. In the game, Makoto meets Aoi in the dining hall, and she tells him to come to the gym as quickly as possible. In the anime, no one is in the dining hall when Makoto arrives, so he spends a lot of time wandering through the school until he finds his classmates in the gym. In the anime, Makoto begins to share Kyoko's theories with the other students while they're still in the gym. In the game, Makoto doesn't tell the other students anything about Kyoko's findings until after Mukuro's body blew up. Also, Game Byakuya was certain that the corpse in the garden was the mastermind. He was open to the possibility that Alter Ego was wrong about the mastermind's identity before Makoto shared Kyoko's theories with everyone. Anime Byakuya, on the other hand, dismissed Anime Makoto when he suggested that Anime Alter Ego was wrong, and when the students discovered the corpse, Anime Byakuya assumed it was Anime Kyoko. In the game, Byakuya has Makoto go running around the school trying to figure out which room the mysterious key unlocks. In the anime, Byakuya figures out what the key is for right away, and the students go straight to the data processing room. In the game, the students turn the television on before Monokuma/Junko reappears. In the anime, Monokuma/Junko reappears, and then she shows the students what's on the TV. I like the game's version of this scene more. I like how the game slowly revealed everything. First, the students see the television with its antenna, and they get super excited, thinking, ooh, maybe we can watch the news and see what's going on outside. Yasuhiro spends some time adjusting the antenna so they can get a signal. Once he's finished setting everything up, the students get even more excited. They finally turn the TV on, and they see themselves standing in the data processing room. First, they're shocked, and then they're confused. They're thinking, the only thing connected to the TV is the antenna, so why is it showing feed from the security cameras? They try changing the channel, but that doesn't do anything. They go, is it broken? Is this some sort of a trick? And then Monokuma/Junko reappears. The students are shocked and devastated to learn that the killing game is still on. Monokuma/Junko tells them that the killing game is being broadcasted worldwide, and the students' initial shock turns into utter disbelief. The anime threw away all that buildup by having Monokuma/Junko reappear before the students could even touch the TV. This next change is probably one of the worst changes in the show. I mean, sure, some of the changes I already discussed are weird or a little annoying, like Anime Makoto not realizing that his door gets stuck until night 3, or Anime Kyoko not showing up when Anime Monokuma/Anime Junko called everyone to the gym, or Anime Monokuma/Anime Junko reappearing before the students could do anything with the TV. But in the grand scheme of things, those changes don't matter that much. This next change, however, matters a lot. So, as you may remember, the Mukuro Ikusaba case had 2 separate trials. The first trial was a ruse, an attempt to frame and kill Kyoko. The second trial was a retrial, an attempt to expose the mastermind and learn the truth about the school. In the game, Kyoko is late for the first trial because she was busy investigating the second floor of the dormitory. The dormitory's second floor doesn't have cameras nor monitors, so she didn't realize a body had been discovered until she left the second floor and heard Monokuma/Junko tell the students to gather at the elevator. Because of this, she only got a quick look at the crime scene before the trial. At that point, Monokuma/Junko had already moved the corpse to the biolab. so Kyoko was unable to examine Mukuro's body before the first trial. During the first trial, the students assumed that the blow to the head was the cause of death. Shortly before the retrial, Kyoko examines Mukuro's body and discovers that the blow to the head was a post-mortem injury. The fatal injuries were the old wounds covering Mukuro's entire body. As you can see, Kyoko missing the initial investigation is crucial to the story. But in the anime, Kyoko shows up when the first investigation starts. Because of this, she's able to examine the body before the first trial. Allowing Kyoko to examine the body this early on is a pretty big change, and it kind of screws with the story. Anime Kyoko should know at this point that the head wound was not the cause of death. She should know that the arrow and locker key evidence is irrelevant. She should know that Mukuro's been dead for days. She should know that everyone's alibi is moot. So, why didn't she say anything during the initial trial? I guess you could argue that the students probably wouldn't have believed her if she had said something, seeing how she was a prime suspect. But still, I don't understand why the anime would make such a big change. But that's not the only thing the anime did to this case that made me go, "What were you thinking, writers?" During the first Mukuro Ikusaba trial, Makoto and Kyoko are the main suspects. When the students begin to doubt Kyoko's innocence, she counters their arguments with, "Hold on, that doesn't prove I killed her. Makoto's still a likely suspect. Look at this. This proves it could have been either one of us." Kyoko's behavior confuses Makoto. He doesn't understand why she's acting so desperate. He doesn't understand why she's trying so hard to deflect the blame. At one point, Makoto has the opportunity to expose a lie and potentially get Kyoko killed, but he decides to stay quiet, trusting that Kyoko is innocent and lying for a good reason. Now, in the game, the other students buy Kyoko's lie. Afterwards, Byakuya concludes that Makoto killed Mukuro and tried to frame Kyoko by planting the locker key in her room. Makoto insists that he isn't the killer and that there's more to the case than what meets the eye. As Makoto tries to convince his classmates to look at the case more closely, the camera cuts to Monokuma/Junko. He/she doesn't say anything, but his/her silence indicates that he/she was uncomfortable with where the conversation was heading. And when Makoto says, "Kyoko is right, this whole trial is a trap arranged by the mastermind," Monokuma/Junko panics and screams, "Okay, time's up, class trial's over, everybody stop talking." When this happens, Kyoko is as surprised as Makoto. Kyoko's a detective. Mystery solving is in her blood, and sometimes she's so focused on discovery that she doesn't really think about how her actions may affect the people around her. We saw this earlier on in the game when Makoto was attacked in the secret room. She had a feeling Monokuma/Junko would notice and follow Makoto, but she didn't warn him of that possibility. Honestly, she probably didn't think there was any real danger. I interpret Kyoko's behavior during this trial as her trying to shift the blame off herself so she could stretch the class trial out long enough for everyone to discover the truth. But once she got Makoto on her side, Monokuma/Junko realized that letting the trial continue was too risky and decided to interfere. Kyoko's surprise and anger tells me that she didn't expect Makoto to get hurt because of her actions during the trial. Her guilt stems from her carelessness. She feels guilty because she wasn't thinking about Makoto's safety at the time. She wasn't thinking about the potential danger she put him in, and it nearly cost him his life. So, How did the show handle that whole situation? Well, anime Kyoko's lie doesn't 100% convince anime Byakuya that she's innocent. Anime Makoto still does his "there's something weird about this trial" spiel, and when anime Monokuma/anime Junko cuts the trial short, anime Kyoko suddenly says, "Makoto was the one who found the key in my room, right? He could have planted it there to frame me." That's right, anime Kyoko deliberately throws anime Makoto under the bus in a last-ditch attempt to save herself. Also, the writers did this really weird thing where they made it look like Monokuma/Junko was the one who gave Kyoko the idea. Before declaring that there was no time left, anime Monokuma/anime Junko tells anime Makoto that the culprit is always the person who can't keep his mouth shut. And then the camera cuts to anime Kyoko. Case and point, I don't like how the anime handled the first half of the Mukuro Ikusaba case. Moving on to the second half. In the game, Kyoko finds a DVD that contained a video of the students agreeing to stay at the school. She watches it by herself off-screen, and then she gives it to Makoto, who then watches it by himself. In the anime, Makoto finds the video, and the video is saved onto a small memory card. He and anime Kyoko watch the video together. In the game, the students learn that Mukuro was a member of Fenrir during the first investigation. In the anime, they don't learn about Mukuro's affiliation with Fenrir until the second investigation. In the game, Monokuma calls the students to the gym to receive a hint. The students arrive one by one, and each of them receive a single photo. In the anime, Monokuma approaches each student during the investigation and gives them a photo. Also, in the game, Makoto, Aoi, Yasuhiro, and Byakuya show everyone their photos during the class trial. In the anime, Toko also shows everyone a photo. Those are most of the changes I've noticed. If I missed any, feel free to post them in the comments. Overall, this is a very faithful adaptation. Most of the changes the writers made to the story are minor. The biggest changes were definitely the changes made to the Mukuro Ikusaba case. Those were probably the worst changes in the show, too. All the other changes were good, okay, weird, or insignificant. Now, does being a faithful adaptation automatically make this a good adaptation? I'm inclined to say no. The main problem with this anime is the pacing. The show is only 13 episodes long, and each episode is less than 30 minutes long. Trigger Happy Havoc is a very extensive story, and 13 half-an-hour episodes isn't enough time to tell that story in full. Because of this, the anime had to rush through the plot. Most of the dialogue felt rushed, and most of the scenes felt rushed. The investigations and the class trials suffered the most. In the game, the shortest class trial was about an hour long, and the longest class trial was nearly 3 hours long. In order to squeeze each trial into half an hour, they had to fly through or skip over the talking points. Seriously, it feels like someone hit the fast forward button while the students were discussing each case. In the game, Makoto got to hang out with the other students in between major plot points, which helped space everything out. The free time events were excluded from the anime, which makes sense, but as a result, there were a lot of time jumps. The show kept skipping ahead to the next major plot point, which, again, made it feel like everything was happening too quickly. The anime also cut or shortened a lot of scenes from the game, which just made matters worse. In a way, I think the show is too faithful to its source material. For whatever reason, the writers decided to incorporate the class trial gameplay into the show. They cut the free time events, but they kept the truth bullet gameplay and the Hangman's Gambit gameplay, and it just felt weird. The only time the show's use of the truth bullets felt epic was during the final class trial, when Makoto accused Monokuma of being the real Junko, and when Junko was voted to be executed. Overall, I think this is a weak game-to-anime adaptation. That being said, there are some things I think the show did very well. Even though the anime flew through most of the story, there were some scenes that were well voiced and well executed. Remember the scene where Makoto finds Sayaka's body? I love how quiet the scene is when Makoto returns to his dorm. We, the viewers, know that Sayaka is dead. We know that Makoto is about to discover her body, and the anticipation makes the silence feel so heavy. There's so much tension, and I love it. I also like Makoto's emotional outburst in the gym. That scene didn't have voice acting in the game, and when I rewatched the anime's version, I was impressed by the voice acting. I loved hearing Makoto's distress in this scene. I also loved hearing his anger and determination in the scenes that followed the first trial and execution. I also really like the scene that occurred before Mondo's execution. Kiyotaka's emotional protests, the remorse in Mondo's voice. Then there's the sequence that followed the fourth class trial's verdict. The voice acting in this scene is fantastic. When Aoi reads the fake suicide letter and explains why she tampered with the crime scene, you can really hear the emotion in her voice. I also like the apology that followed Alter Ego's execution, and the silly banter that followed that. That entire scene was well executed. Scenes like this make me think Trigger Happy Havoc could work as a television series. I just think this particular show went about it the wrong way. So, I went through the show, I talked about the problems. Here's how I would make the show better. First, I would make the show more than 13 episodes long, and preferably, each episode would be more than half an hour long, maybe an hour or 45 minutes. Second, I would get rid of the Truth Bullet visuals and the Hangman's Gambit visuals. I know the truth bullets especially were integral to the game, but as I said before, they look weird in an anime format. Third, I would slow the story down. I would let the students take their time and not rush through their discussions. Also, if making the episodes more than 30 minutes long can't be done, I would have the class trials take place over the course of several episodes. I wouldn't try to squeeze one long trial into one short episode. Fourth, and this is a big one, I would add more scenes. I would make sure there's more happening in between the major plot points. As I said before, the show kept skipping ahead to the next major plot point, which made it feel like things were happening too quickly. The show could have avoided this by including more scenes from the game. I mentioned this before, but in the game, Makoto and Sayaka find the replica sword in a display case outside the gym and decide to take it. Afterwards, they have a conversation about how Sayaka became an idol, and Sayaka reveals how difficult their current situation is for her. In the anime, the sword is already in Makoto's room, so we never get a scene like this. The reasoning the anime gave for having the sword in Makoto's room makes sense, but I think this decision, and decisions like it, hurt the show. If the writers stuck with the original version, that would have stretched the story out by giving Makoto and Sayaka something to do before the first motive, which, remember, was not presented to the students until day 3. In the game, Kiyotaka learns about the laptop the day after the students find it. He approaches Makoto and asks him to take him to Alter Ego. Kiyotaka asks Alter Ego if he hates Mondo for killing Chihiro, and if he hates him for not stopping Mondo. Alter Ego creates a simulation of Mondo, and the simulation cheers Kiyotaka up. Kiyotaka transforms into Kyondo and runs off. Makoto begins to chase Kiyotaka, but he runs into Kyoko at the door. Kyoko gets angry and tells Makoto to leave. In the anime, Kiyotaka is there when the students discover Alter Ego, so the Alter Ego Kiyotaka interaction happens a lot earlier and winds up being a lot shorter. It feels like the writers placed the Kiyotaka scene here because they knew they had a limited amount of time and they just wanted to get it out of the way. In my ideal version of the anime, the Kyondo scene would happen later on. In the game, Kyoko gets really angry when she realizes that Makoto is hiding something from her. Makoto had previously told her that he trusts her and considers her his friend. Kyoko is not very good at trusting nor relying on other people, so when she decided to confide in him, that was a big deal. So when Makoto seemingly goes back on his word, it really annoys her. She starts to give him the cold shoulder, she doesn't come to the dining hall in the morning because she doesn't want to have breakfast with him, and when she does talk to him, she is very harsh. The anime downplayed Kyoko's anger significantly. We didn't get any scenes of Kyoko avoiding nor ignoring Makoto. We didn't get any scenes of her being cold towards him, so when she apologized for overreacting, it didn't feel earned. No, you didn't overreact. You called him out once, and that's it. It didn't come up again after that. Mainly because Anime Monokuma/Anime Junko revealed that Anime Sakura was the spy later that same day. If the writers included all those scenes in the show, if the show waited a day or two before having Monokuma/Junko expose Sakura, it would have stretched the story out. It would have been cool if the fanservice-y bathhouse scene was included in the anime. The fanservice scene in Trigger Happy Havoc is probably my favorite fanservice scene in the entire series because it was well integrated into the story. It didn't feel forced or out of nowhere, and it didn't make the main character look like a total freak. Partially because he wasn't alone, and partially because Monokuma/Junko of all people suggested it. I remember Nico B said he thought it would have been hilarious if Monokuma/Junko ratted the boys out, and I've got to agree. If they included this scene in an animated television show, I would want Monokuma/Junko to rat the boys out afterwards, just to see how everyone would react. There are other scenes and little details from the game that were excluded from the show, but you catch my drift. I think adding more scenes from the game would have benefited the show. In fact, I think the anime could have been a nice opportunity to expand on old scenes or add new scenes. In the current anime, we get a short scene of Sakura spilling her protein coffee on the carpet in the girls' locker room. I think that's a nice little addition, and I'd like to expand on it. In my version of the coffee spilling scene, Sakura is in the locker room with Aoi. After they finish exercising, they prepare their protein coffee and talk about Chihiro. They talk about how Chihiro keeps saying, "I want to become stronger, I want to start exercising," but always says no whenever they invite her to work out with them. This conversation would be a nod to what Sakura and Aoi told Makoto in the original game. While they're talking, Sakura suddenly spills her protein coffee on the carpet. The two girls start to freak out, thinking, "Oh shoot, what do we do? Do you think Monokuma will be mad?" They try to clean it up with soap or detergent from the laundry room, but no matter how hard they scrub, no matter how much time they spend working on the carpet, the stain won't come out. So when Chihiro is killed and they notice that the stain is gone, it really confuses them. In the current anime, we get a couple shots of Chihiro sitting in his room, typing on the laptop from the library. We can see a toolkit sitting on the desk, which is meant to foreshadow the fact that Chihiro is a boy cross-dressing as a girl. If I worked on the anime, I probably would have added a scene that shows Chihiro sneaking the laptop out of the library. Maybe he could hide behind a bookshelf, try to hide in the security camera's blind spot, and then tinker with the laptop before slipping it into a bag and walking out of the room. Trying to look as casual as possible, of course. The next time we see the laptop would be when the students discover it in the bathhouse locker. Maybe we could also see the scene where Chihiro takes a suit and bag from the storage room and runs into Celeste. In both the game and the anime, Aoi and Toko argue about Sakura off-screen. By the time Makoto gets to the dining hall, Toko had already swapped over to her Genocider show personality and slashed Aoi. If I worked on the show, I would have expanded on their fight by showing the viewers the scene that led up to this moment. I would show them the initial argument that escalated to physical violence. There's also the scene where Junko steals the survival knife and attacks Makoto. We don't know exactly what happened when Kyoko showed up because, in both versions, the screen turned black in between the two shots. I understand that the game was being ambiguous on purpose. I understand that Makoto, the narrator, wasn't fully aware of what was happening in front of him, but I think it would have been cool if the anime showed a fight breakout between Kyoko and the masked assailant. I think Kyoko would have put up a good fight, but ultimately the fight would end with Junko knocking Kyoko away, grabbing the knife, and running away. By the time Kyoko gets up and runs out into the hallway, Junko would be long gone. Kyoko would then return to the room to check on Makoto. Once she confirms that he's not hurt, she would leave his room and lock the door behind her using the Monokuma key. After that, the scene would fade or cut to black, and then cut to Makoto waking up the next day. According to the Danganronpa Wiki, the creators wanted Kyoko to cut her hair in the game, but they wound up scrapping that idea. I think it would be cool to see the haircutting idea come to fruition in a television show. Maybe Kyoko could cut her hair after Makoto leaves her alone with her father's remains. It could be a pretty emotional scene. In the current anime, Makoto tries to find Kyoko and show her the journal he found, but by the time he gets to the room with Jin Kirigiri's remains, Kyoko is already gone. If I worked on the show, I'd show Makoto finding the journal and leaving the locker room to tell Kyoko. The scene would then cut to Kyoko standing alone with the box of bones. After standing there in silence for several seconds, Kyoko would retrieve a pair of scissors from nearby and snip most of her hair off. Then she would drop the scissors, fall to her knees, and start crying. As Kyoko cries, the camera would slowly pan up and show Makoto standing in the doorway behind her. The shot would cut to a close-up of Makoto's face. His shocked expression would turn into an expression of sadness, an expression that says, "This isn't the time, I need to give her some space," and then he would leave to investigate elsewhere. In conclusion, this anime had the potential to be good, but it fell flat in certain areas. At times, the story felt rushed and neutered. To make Trigger Happy Havoc work as a television series, more time was needed to flesh the story out. Thank you for watching the video, and thank you again for helping the channel reach its first 100 subscribers. We really appreciate it, guys. So, what did you think of the video? Did you notice any of these changes or differences I noted? Did I miss any? Also, do you think Trigger Happy Havoc could work as an anime, or do you think this story only works as a game? What do you think of my suggestions? Do you agree with anything I had to say? Do you disagree with anything I had to say? Let us know in the comments below. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe. Check out our other videos if you haven't already. Be sure to share this video, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye!